What's up everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Kaori and today we are going to be taking a look at one of the newest additions to the Gundam universe line by Bandai and Tamashii Nations. This release is the Gundam EX from Requiem for a Dream, the animated or CGI styled series that you can view as of now on Netflix and a couple other streaming platforms, but we're not here to talk about the show itself. This is one of the new offerings from the universe line, and as you can see, the packaging is slightly different than your standard universe. Besides the back, you get a little bit of your typical information, but let's just get this guy out of the packaging and take a closer look. Before we move further with the review, I would like to point out that I did go in and panel line this figure as soon as it arrived. It has a lot of really nice detail that was hidden due to the fact that it doesn't have much paint, if paint at all. A lot of it is just the molded plastics put together. Highlighting some of those portions with Gundam Markers definitely helped bring this figure to a level that I feel like more people would be comfortable with at the price point. And it is something that takes a little bit of time and patience, but it isn't the hardest thing, and it is easy to fix your mistakes if you take your time. A little bit of rubbing alcohol, a eraser, it makes all the difference. I use the gray and black Gundam markers, and I'll have those linked below, but I just wanted to point that out before we move further. So this figure comes with a decent spread of accessories. It's not the greatest, it's not the worst. I think it's somewhere right in the middle. And one thing that all of these figures come with is one of these little clips for their crotch plate to put on a display stand, and we'll show that off shortly. One other thing that most of these figures come with is a trigger finger open hand and a more relaxed gripping open hand. And you normally only get 2 sets of hands per figure. There are exceptions, but most of the time you will get at least an additional set of hands. Another thing that this figure comes with that is counted as an accessory is the handle for the shield. Now the shield I really like, and with a little bit of added detail, it looks even better, but it just pegs in back here. And there you have your shield, which is a decent sturdy quality. It's not super flimsy and doesn't feel like you'll break it very easily. Coming to the next accessory is his saber holder, which I do wish had a hinge, but it is just a static piece of plastic that pegs in to this slot next to the shoulder pegs, and you just slot that in and it slides off to an angle like so. Of course, if you have the saber holder, you have 3 of these guys that peg in to the saber, but do be careful removing them as those pegs are rather small. They're not super fragile, but they are still small, and the force necessary to take them off, as long as you pull straight out, is fine, but do not pull at an angle. You can kind of move this due to the connection, but it's not necessarily meant to. Just get you standing back up. You also get 2 beams for the saber, and I do like that they added the blue at the end because that's show accurate or series accurate. Here's a comparison with a kind of standard beam. Same mold, just a different color. And here is the one that comes with the universe burning Gundam, just so you can see that. Move those off to the side. Also comes with his jetpack, and that just pegs into these 2 holes on the back, and they have hinges so they can go all the way up and pretty far down. And lastly, he comes with his beam rifle, which is a rather sturdy piece as well. So all the accessories out of the way, now we can move on to the articulation. So for the articulation, this line has been pretty mediocre at best, with some being pretty good and others being not so good. Especially with characters that are known for being more acrobatic, to be so limited is very disheartening and a little bit frustrating, but it doesn't hold them back from doing almost what they're supposed to do. This figure and all of the figures in this line share a very common fatal flaw. Regardless of the mobile suit's build, they all have this issue. Some are a tiny bit better than others, but most are of this quality that is staring right at us right now. So let's move around everything, and then I will ramble about why I think this fatal flaw holds this line back from being a nice middle ground or even just a nice collector line in general. So, coming to the head, it is just on a little ball right here, and this neck piece can rotate side to side, but you get decent range on that little ball joint. It's nothing crazy, but you do get some attitude. You can look up, down, down to the side, just about full 360. This little collar piece gets in the way a little bit, and because of that other neck, it rocks side to side, which is pretty good. Coming to the shoulders, there's no real limitations to the shoulders, and you can pop the little ball joint off and get over horizontal, and then you just pop that back on. Can go full 360, has a little bit of a butterfly due to the connection, and you have your bicep swivel and your double jointed elbow, which is pretty good, and then the wrists are just on little ball pegs, but they do move around up and down, side to side, pretty good. Move those out of the way. Coming to the ankles, because we're going to work our way to the problem. The ankles are pretty good. They rock side to side. You get a little bit of down, a lot more up. And what's nice about these feet is the way they're built. You can kind of pop this out and get more range without really having too much of an issue. It does take it to pop out, but you can get a deep ankle. It also swivels, and then this moves up and down. So you get some decent range in the ankles. The knees are okay. They're a little bit better than some, but I don't think they're the best in this line. Less than full 180, but over 90. Should be more. And then you get a thigh swivel right here. It is a drop down, so you can bring the leg up like this far, and it goes out to the side, good. And you can go back. And it's okay. Legs aren't the greatest, but when we come to the core section, which is the main problem, it's super limited. This torso on all of them is very limited. You're only going to get like a degree out of the torsos, and it's not necessarily because of this piece. It's how it's set up and how the front like cockpit piece or like chest armor fits. These are also annoying based on how they're designed. They do shift up, but there's not a lot of range, so you end up just popping things apart because they're just on these like little tabs, and then that's on a little hinge, and it's not the greatest. It's better on the hips, like they do just get out of the way, but that's a limitation. Going forward, forget it. It's just a little bit, like that's all the way. Going back without the legs, tiny bit. And in the series, it is very dynamic and can do like a decent crunch. It doesn't have to do like a full Spider-Man type crunch, but a few degrees forward would be nice. Why is this the problem? Well, it's this. It's strictly this. So even if you rotate this tab section in, it's just how limited this whole section is set up. It can't go any further than that. And in the body, even though it can go backwards this far, if you switch it around, it doesn't work. So why is that then? Well, because the way this is built, there's so much space here, but it just is so shallow that it just clicks into place. And then you have this front piece, which just gets in the way. And there's nothing you can really do about that unless you like customize it and make yourself a hinge, but it gets in the way. And they're all kind of like that, and it's very frustrating because this doesn't really get in the way. It's free floating, and putting things together, taking apart isn't hard, but it's not easy either. So the build quality is good. It's just that's a fatal flaw to me, is the torso and these hip skirts, because a lot of the figures share this issue, is this torso and the hip skirt to the front. But other than that, these figures are pretty good, but that's its limitation. If it could just get a little bit more dynamic, get a little bit lower, a little bit deeper of a knee, deeper of a crunch, I think these would be even better, because they are really fun, and it's a nice way to pick up like one of your favorite characters and maybe practice panel lining or getting into the series as a whole. But that is the articulation. It's okay, but let's arm him up. One thing I forgot to mention in the accessories section, this figure is actually missing one of its core weapons from the series. In the series, it has a chain gun or Vulcan cannon that is mounted onto the shoulder over here, that is on a pivot and can move up and down, round and round, and it adds something menacing to the overall aesthetic of the mobile suit. And something else that I think would have been a nice touch, it's just a nitpick at this point, would be having a single point, like a hinge and a rotational joint, so you don't have to necessarily remove the holster for the blades. But other than that, this release is pretty good. I really like what you can do to a figure by simply adding a little bit of panel lining, and that's one of the things that I really like about Gundams as a whole, is you can kind of customize them whatever way you want, and sometimes the simplest little details really take a figure to the next level. So let's take a look at some size comparisons. Our first comparison is staying within the Gundam Universe line, and we're taking a look at the Wave 1 Gundam Unicorn release. This figure came with about the same amount of accessories, maybe a couple more. It has 4 beam sabers, additional hands, a rifle, the backpack, and of course the shield and the peg for the shield, which is about the same count as the EX Gundam. One thing the EX release has over the Unicorn is the mobility. The Unicorn Gundam is incredibly limited, especially in the chest. One of the worst in the line as far as torso articulation. Mobility of the knees is also very limited because they are placed very high on the mobile suit. So it's not necessarily one that you'll be posing around often, but it does look pretty cool in comparison. The price point, to me, and the deluxe feel is kind of hard to figure out what is actually deluxe and what isn't. I'm not really there, as some of the figures come with more than others and some come with less around the same price point. But let's move forward to see what other comparisons I have for you guys. So something to keep in mind, the Robot Spirits line has a slightly different scale. This is the Gundam Age 1 Titus, one of my favorite forms from that series, and I purchased this, I believe, back in like 2014, 2015, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think it was either $25 or $40. If it's $40, it's right around the price that this guy costs currently, but comes with a little bit more and has a gimmick as well as slightly more range in the articulation, as it should. Let's move on. Continuing to stay in the Gundam universe, we have the Gashapon Gundam Pilot. I don't know what this one was named because I don't have the instructions anymore. I found it years and years and years ago at a Barnes & Noble, part of a little Gashapon mystery box. It came with 2 greens and a red. Do I know where the red is? No. Do I know where the other green is? No. But he's 3 centimeters tall, and I thought it would be a really nice comparison, especially since it's in the Gundam universe. Granted, it's not in this series, but I thought it was a pretty decent comparison, right? Now for the fun stuff, here is the comparison with the Super Mini Pla Battle Caesar Robo from the 45th anniversary season of Super Sentai Zen Kaiser. One of my personal favorites because it was weird, wacky, and kind of what pulled me back into the franchise as a whole. I'll always collect mecha, but watching the shows I'm not so keen on because of time. But that was one of the shows that I made time for because it was fun and a lot different. It also had symmetrical docking, but we're not here to talk about that series as much as I love it. Here's just the comparison with the SMP Battle Caesar Robo, and it is pretty articulated. One of the downsides to the SMPs is the fact that most of them require a crap ton of stickers, which is, in my opinion, the major downside to building model kits, but this one has a special place in my heart. One of my favorite lines of the last couple of years is Bandai's 30-minute missions, 30-minute sisters, and 30-minute fantasy model kit line. Our friend on the right is the Liber Knight from 30 Minute Fantasies. He has 2 additional armor sets to level him up or class him up, and there are a plethora on the way as well as a bunch out. The 30 Minute Missions line is more based on like mecha, whereas the 30 Minute Sisters line is solely dedicated to more feminine model kit builds and designs, and the 30 Minute Fantasies is more knight and mage like, and I am all about it. That figure on the right is phenomenal, and of course if you add a little panel lining, which I did, it takes it to the next level. Definitely some of the most articulated model kits that I've ever built. And standing next to the Gundam, they scale really well. They're not necessarily the same design, but you could fudge them in together if that's something that you wanted to do. And moving right along, here he is with the SH Figuarts Ultra Instinct Goku. This is the reissue, and that's on the left. And granted, they don't necessarily fit together because one's supposed to be enormous and the other one's supposed to be more human scale. They do complement each other mainly because of the Ultra Instinct hair. And for our last comparison, here he is with the Shoto Double Cross Kamen Rider Black RX, or known to us in the States as Saban's Masked Rider. He is a 1/18th scale release, and that's how he scales with our friend the EX. Thank you so much to Beast of the East Collectibles for sending over this figure and a couple more. We will be taking a look at the others here shortly, but this figure was one that I was really looking forward to, especially when they announced that they were going to try to improve upon the Gundam Universe line, and that mainly meant the accessories, some of the details, the quality, and the articulation. While all these figures still share the same fatal flaw in the torso as far as range, this figure is definitely a right step in a better direction. I feel like the quality and QC of this release is a great leap in the right direction, whereas some of the past releases that at least I've handled suffer from loose joints and lack of range. If you want to pick up this figure or any other tokusatsu mecha kaiju based item, head over to Beast of the East Collectibles today or use the link in my description below. Also follow them on Facebook and Instagram for discount codes upon different drops and updates when they will be getting different items in. If you like what I do here, please hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment of your favorite mobile suit and what you would like to see me review next. In the meantime, I'll be making more great content for you guys, and I thank you so much for your support. See you guys next time.